Happy Sabbath, Cerritos family. It's good to see you all. I was actually planning to go to Loma Linda Group to say bye to Josh since he's leaving tomorrow. Uh, but I was having a digestive issues from the past days, and I was really not able to make it. But here I am to say bye to Josh. If you're there, I hope you have a great last day in Loma Linda. And for the 5 weeks in catering, I hope you have a great experience. I hope you miss a little bit of our small group. So when you come back, we can have a good meal all together. Keep your relationship good. Also, I welcome Brittany. If you're there, I hope you're there. If Brittany's been there, I welcome you. I hope you had a great meal after a long week. We hope you enjoy our Loma Linda smoke room. Okay, this is our 30th time of studying Genesis, and we are going to start digging our Genesis chapter 39, starting from verse 1 till the end of the chapter 39. I always want you to stop it from here and then go through, read it out with your old group, and then I want you to come back when you're done. Okay? All right. I hope you're done. I hope you're done. I just do not hope that you play the video at this point because it'd be kind of awkward if I say like, okay, welcome back. Anyway, welcome back. I want to read out chapter 39, verse 10 again. It says, she spoke to Joseph day after day, and he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. I started playing pickleball like, I don't know, half a year ago, I remember. It was John and Michael who first introduced me into the sport. It's called pickleball. And to be honest, on the first day, I wasn't not really like getting it because maybe I was not athletic enough or I was not really good enough. It was kind of my first time to play like racket sports. And then I was not really getting it, you know? People were good, but I was not. So I wasn't really into it on the first day. However, I remember there was like a second day I started playing again. And that was the day I felt like, oh, maybe I should try playing in this certain way, or maybe try with the shoes, or try with the new paddle, right? People introduced me like a new paddle, new shoes, a new strategy, a new tactic. And that was the right in the moment that I felt like, oh, maybe I should start digging it. And I always have like this um instinct, or I have this like a feature that once I get used to it and once I get addicted to it, I go really deeper, right? I think that happened to me in pickleball. So yesterday, Michael was having a sleepover at my house, and I knew like he was super tired from work, but I insisted in like, oh, let's go on a pickleball, right? Um, Michael was a little hurt for me to mention in pickleball first without saying hi to him, right? I think once we get addicted to something, we get to continuously sort of thinking about it and wanting to do it like again and again. That's like a one trait of a sin because sin has a continuity. I've mentioned a lot about how the chains of the sin is so powerful that it is really true that once we get to overcome the temptation of a sin, it doesn't really promises us that the sin is not going to seduce us again tomorrow, right? The chain is strong, and it is a constant battle between us and the temptation of a sin. The reason why I'm mentioning all of this, my story about pickleball and it's a chain of a sin, is because verse 10 says, day after day, she, which was Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar, went out to Joseph to seduce him, right? Um, I initially thought it was a one-day event that Joseph had a victory for one seduce or one test. That he got a good result, which I thought was true. However, looking at the scripture of 39 got me into a new idea of winning over the temptation of a sin because it was conducted a day after day, which means over a few months or maybe a few years, she has been trying to get him into sexual crime, right? It's just like how our sin is. You know, I think Satan is pretty well aware of which part in our life that we are weakest at, right? Everyone might be different. Everyone might be, someone might be into cars, someone might be into cooking just like me, someone might be into sports, someone might be into dramas. It's maybe someone's for relationships, right? It's so much different for everyone. However, we all get to have that same temptation over and over because I think Satan is well making up a good plan to seduce us all and make us triple over at his temptation. And if you have a time, I wanted to go through Genesis chapter 38, which is the story of Judah and Tamar, right? It is also a pretty famous story, but I don't want to go over it right now. But the reason why Genesis 38 is in between 37 and 39 is pretty awkward, pretty awkward. A lot of people have a good reason why 38 has to be there in 38. Because 37 is the story of Joseph and 39 is the story of Joseph. However, until the end of chapter 50, they go for the story of Joseph all the way. However, the story of Judah and Tamar in 38 seems pretty odd in its place. And the story of like Judah just committing a sexual crime. However, I just started reading it out with continuously 38 and 39, and I found a pretty weird story frame that are repeated afterwards. I think there was a special reason why 38 should have been there. The reason is to show the family history of Joseph's family about their sexual crime. Remember Joseph's father, Jacob. How many wives did he have? He had 4. And out of those 4 wives, he had 12 brothers, which he suffered from all his life. What about his relative, his Knapa, Judah? Judah has committed a sexual crime with his daughter-in-law, which was Tamar. So looking at the family history of this Joseph's family, we can really tell, oh, their family had something in sexual temptation. They were not really strong with that. They were not. And with that history aside, we can see Joseph, we see Joseph as a pure, a clean, and a calm, and a good Christian guy. However, his family history tells a different history, which means Joseph might be also weak in sexual temptations or in somewhat temptations into his life, because his family proves that. Also, the wife of Potiphar, I want to look at a little bit closer to her life. The relationship one couple has or start building out after marriage is pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful. So, even though you don't say anything, you get to have a nunchi. I'm sorry, Anna, please translate it to Josh. I'm sorry. But you get to get a nunchi for what your spouse is thinking right now, or what your spouse is having her or his focus on, or their concentration is directing at, right? The other day in the morning, I was having like a trouble issues with my digestive system. So I was throwing up, and I don't know, I was like getting stressed, right? And I asked my wife like, oh, can you make some soup like 국, 찌개, for me to like maybe to make my digestive system to work again, right? And after getting 지니 집사님's 된장, I've been pretty addicted to it, right? 된장국 and 된장찌개 has been my like go-to menu for everyday morning because it's so calming and like I don't know, it gives me inner peace, right? So I asked my wife like, can you make a 된장국 with the 된장 지니 집사님 gave us, right? So she made a 된장찌개, and it was like much like this. When you see the picture, there is a picture of like pumpkin, the picture of onion, what else? Maybe potato. However, there were a bunch of pepper in the 된장국. I always love putting peppers or gochujang sometimes like mix a little bit to 된장국. However, on that day, on the very day, I was having a trouble in my stomach, right? After throwing up, like my whole stomach was like hurting me so bad, and I was not sure if I can just have it. Like it was too spicy for me, you know. That was the first time I felt like non-Korean. However, so I asked my wife, can you I just dipped like one spoon. Ah, man, I don't know. Like I don't know if my wife cares about me. I don't know like if I can just consume it. I don't know like what she was thinking with making this doenjang too spicy. Like that was all thoughts that was going on my brain, right? On my mind. But on the outward, I was just having like one deep sigh. You know, like that's all right. And then my wife saw me having a deep sigh, and then she had a nunchi, right? And then she asked me like, "Oh, do you want me to cook another one, like a non-mild one, or like a mild doenjang for you?" I said, "It's all right. Like, I'm right. I don't know, I can just have pop instead." And then she went on to make another like mild, non-spicy doenjang for me. Um, just to make me happy. Just like that, spouse relationship is pretty strong so that they really get to know what your situation is, what your thinking is heading at, what you want to do right now. And I want you to focus. I want us to focus on how Potiphar was having a relationship with his wife. For sure, they've been together for like, I don't know, at least 20, 30 years. Knowing from verse 10, knowing that she spoke to Joseph day after day, and he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her, means a lot about the wife of Potiphar. Means a lot. Means a lot. I'm pretty sure Potiphar was well aware of his wife's addiction or a sinful direction, which is why later on, when Joseph falsely accused by the wife, Potiphar puts Joseph into a prison, which is called the king's prison. And we don't really think about what the king's prison is. However, let us think about who was in the king's prison. Was not a murderer, or it was not a normal criminal. The prisoners were later on, one chapter later, they talk about the story of a person who was in charge of wine and the person who was in charge of baking bread in the kingdom, in the palace, which means later on, the historians, they write about how what kind of meaning they had when they were bearing wine for the king or making a bread for the king. Nowadays, they explain they had advice. They used to have an authority to give an advice to the king or pharaoh, which means they are kind of like a vice president. That's literally what it says in the commentary. They had a power of like a vice president so that they can have an advice or political, some kind of power or over a pharaoh's political decision. However, when it goes wrong, they were put into the king's prison, which is a little different from treating a normal prisoner or normal criminal. Let us think about Joseph being a foreign slave. He was a foreign slave, and he was accused for sexually mistreating or sexually committing a crime towards the wife of Potiphar. And I wanted to go remember the 42 commandments of Egypt. I told you about it, right? I told you about the 42 commandments in order for them to go into the afterlife so that they can be saved from the hell. Which is number 2. This one is not really exactly in an order. However, number 2 is do not commit a sexual crime, which is raping. So combining them together, Joseph being a foreign slave and Joseph being accused for committing a sexual crime together means, oh, in Egyptian commandments, you are being executed for this. You're being executed. That is the right outcome for this fellow's false accusation. However, Potiphar, the good proof of Potiphar putting Joseph into the king's prison, which was supposed to be a political criminal's prison, means Potiphar was well aware of his wife's sinful direction, and he rather had a better faith in Joseph. So coming back to the story, there were two suspects in this one case of Joseph's being false accusation. It was Joseph, and the other one was the wife of Potiphar. There were two suspects. And I want us to go through, because these two suspects were having similar nature. Joseph, having it from his family history, he was also pretty weak from sexual crime. The wife of Potiphar also, day after day, she was doing the same thing. And with these two suspects, what were the difference between these two suspects in this one case? I want to go through that. I hope Loma Linda Group find one continuous phrase within this chapter 39. I always have my Bible highlighted, especially chapter 39. There has been one phrase that's continuously for 7 times written, that was written throughout the chapter. It was, the Lord was with him. It's written 7 times. And wherever he went, it was the house of Potiphar, it was the place of his working place, it was the place of the prison, it was with the people he was with. The Lord was with him. What's the difference in between these two suspects? I guess for Joseph, he remembered the very fact that the Lord was watching over him. Even though his sinful nature was kept telling him, he was just as fragile as we are to our sin. However, he was remembering again that the very fact that he's living his life in Jehovah watching over him. He had to remember that. Unlike his father, unlike his Knapa Judah committing a crime, unlike the wife of Potiphar, is very much different. Some might ask, like, what does it mean to live as a Christian? Well, for me, the answer is pretty clear. Christian are the people who ought to live a life which resembles Jesus Christ, but also who remembers the very fact that Jehovah is watching over every life. That makes a big difference. That makes a big difference. Because later on, when the wife of Potiphar accuses Joseph and says, that Hebrew slave you brought us, reminds me of Genesis 3:12. The woman you put here with me has seduced me, has brought me the fruit of sin. It reminds me of the story of Adam and Eve again. Because Eve has left the presence of Jehovah and went to the world asking for what she wanted, she has fallen into a temptation. I think it was not a matter of her consuming the fruit itself. It was about her leaving the space, her leaving the presence of Jehovah in her life. And that was the natural outcome for her to triple. And for Joseph, it was about the same. I want you to remember that Joseph had the exact sinful nature that his father had and his uncle did. However, what was different for him? He remembered that the Lord was with him, watching his life over. And when he was faithful, God, Jehovah, was ready to pour out all the blessings into him. So I want to ask this again. What kind of life do we live? What kind of day did you live today? Did you remember the very fact that God is watching you? Well, if you did, if you remember the Sabbath, if you remember coming to God, we'll welcome you. I think God is most happy to have you here. That was the one I want us to remember. That not only Sabbath, not only this one day, but also the whole week, he wants to spend with you. He wants to walk with you. So it is a great opportunity for us to start studying Bible, which will lead us to walk together with God. So Josh, remember, when you fly there, God is coming with you. So take care. Brittany, we'll welcome you again. God is going to be with you with your whole study life in college. Also, Loma Linda Group, thanks for coming for your whole busy week. And we hope the Sabbath God is allowing us to have will allow you to have a great rest out of all. Thank you all, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a happy Sabbath.